The Notcast, life, love and misery and deep shit.
Do you ever wonder, what the fuck am I doing here? Is this it? Maybe you've got the car, career, house, family and friends, everything that should make you happy. But still, there's this tenacious sense of being trapped, stuck, lost, or just a bit bloody empty. Welcome to the Notcast podcast, where two therapist coaches, aka theracoaches, lay bare their psycho-spiritual journey of struggle, strife, and realization in their soul search for the keys to a happier, more fulfilling life.
So, episode 18? 18.
Yes.
Episode 18 of the Notcast. Alcohol. Am I drinking too much? 3 steps to taking back control.
Ah, yes. Yes. What joy.
Is it joy? Is it joy?
Well, I thought it was.
The alcohol bit or the taking back control or the
Well, the alcohol bit I thought was a lot of joy until I had to take back control.
Until it's not, yeah.
Yeah.
I find this topic is actually rarely a source of joy.
Yeah.
Actually.
Right.
The drinking bit, yes, until it becomes a problem, and then it's not exactly joyful.
No. Then it's not fun anymore. So, yeah. So.
Drinking.
Yeah.
Whey!
Oh, woo! Yeah, all of that. Oh, God.
Well, the thing that came to me as I was reflecting on my experience is I've just had a terrible fucking relationship with alcohol, with a lot of my drinking life. I mean, I'm not drinking at the moment. I haven't drunk for 2 years now in February, but I've been a bit like a ping pong ball with drinking. Like I didn't drink really until I think I was maybe 16, 17 when I first started drinking. So technically by UK standards, a little bit late in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
But I've gone through periods of, either quitting like bloody every other week or every month or something to going several years without it. So, and it was very, very ping pongy, very, very all or nothing in some respects. That been my
surprise me.
How about fuck you?
Whatevs. Touch the nerve.
No, but you would not be the first person to say that, so I totally relate to that. Yeah, like I said, that had been my experience. It was like, yeah, this is amazing, and let's just do this all the time. To like, no, got to quit. This is like the source of all my problems and worries, and I'm going to go absolutely teetotal and never touch it again. My body is a temple type jobby.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. That resonates with me too. Yeah. And I think for me, therein lies the conundrum. For me anyway, like doing that kind of thing of going full out on something and then full out going, no, completely no. But I'm not going to talk too much about that because that relates to one of my points. So
we could just mix it up this one because, it is our podcast.
True. Could just throw them in there whenever I feel like it. Yeah.
Well, I think about, like, it was interesting when I think about my journey with alcohol because my perception of it really has changed throughout. Like what it's meant to me, how I've seen it. Like I've gone from seeing it as something that's fun and almost harmless to something that's actually life destroying to, and everywhere in between. Like,
yeah,
I think I didn't drink for a long time before because I think I had some kind of fear about it, and like I remember making a bet with someone at some point when I was like a young teenager, being like, I'm not going to drink and smoke till I'm like 18 or something, and I stuck by that like really rigidly, probably through a fear of being wrong or being, disappointing myself or I don't know, but it was something like that. But I think the other side of it was probably a bunch of fear. I mean, I broke that when I was like 16. But then when I was 16, drinking to me back then was just like, it was going out of a Friday night to like the local co-op or whatever it was, and buying like 2 bottles of WKD for a £5.
Yes.
Drinking them in the park and getting a bit tipsy.
Yeah.
And for a while, that's what drinking was to me. It was just tipsiness and something you did for a bit of consciousness change. But then that changed horrifically for me. The first time I remember going to a proper like evening house party type thing, where someone handed me a bottle of straight spirits.
Whoa.
And of course I had no experience of this because I was about 17. So I was like, cool, glug, 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 glug.
Oh no. Oh dear.
Yeah. And then I had no idea what that was like. And I blacked out.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like the blacking out bit wasn't so bad because I sort of kind of, when I woke up in the morning with a fuck off headache, I was like, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? And I kind of, I remembered being at the party, but remember going down the stairs, remembered like trying to get in my front door. Don't remember how I got in. And that was about the last thing I remembered, right?
Yeah.
But first experience of that. So I was like, okay, cool. Went downstairs, got a pint of water, went out to my mate's house. And I was fine for the whole day until a bunch of the people from the party the night before turned up. And someone said something about, oh yeah, we kept hearing your chains rattling or something. Because I was a dirty grebo back then. So I used to wear these chains.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was like, and they said something like, oh yeah, you went in the bedroom with so-and-so. Do you not remember? And I was like, what?
Oh shit.
Yeah. And I was like, because I had a girlfriend at the time and she was away. And I was like, and I thought they were joking. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were all laughing about it. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it fucked me up royally because like in my head, I was like, I wouldn't do that. But I was like, but I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, but there's like this bit of my memory missing. So I don't know what's real, what's not. Oh, and then and this is back before there was like internet and data and things. This is back when it was just like mobile phones with just signal. So I think, my girlfriend at the time had gone to America or something. So there was no getting hold of her.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, it really messed me up because I couldn't get the truth from anyone and I couldn't remember. And then of course and she wasn't coming back for about another week. And then I had her best friend suddenly find out on the grapevine and start sending me messages. And it's like, and now I'm feeling even more bad and shameful and like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. And like, have I been this terrible person? And it was horrific.
Wow.
I mean, I think from what I gather when I found out, like however long ago afterwards, like I don't think anything happened. I think it was a lot of hearsay and a lot of joking around, but that scared the shit out of me enough that I went, I am quitting drinking.
Yeah.
Because this is a substance now that I can't trust and I don't trust myself with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a real turning point in my life. Because like I said, it had gone from this thing that's, oh, this is a bit of fun to there's this really dangerous thing which could potentially ruin my life. Yeah,
absolutely. That resonates. Because when I reflected, that was kind of what it looked like for me too.
Really?
Because the starting point, like, so when we were younger, I can remember like Christmases or whatever, like my parents would get like baby sham and go, oh, do you want a bottle of baby sham? You're kind of feeling really grown up going, oh, look, but actually my introduction to it was kind of pretty much sitting with my mates, getting a bottle of hooch. Yeah, behind all the garages, like in the car park, and all this kind of thing, and just having a laugh and getting a bit tipsy and just thinking, oh, look at us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah.
And then there was a tipping point in my life when it changed from this is fun, just going out and having a drink with my mates and having a laugh, to this has become a way for me to cope with abuse, to cope with unhappiness, to cope with a lack of confidence, to cope with the fact that I don't like who I am, to cope with a breakup. When it turned into that, then it really wasn't fun. Then it was dangerous. And when I thought back, I thought, oh my God, I am so blessed and grateful that something horrendous didn't happen to me the way I used to drink. Because it got to a point where like my tolerance was so up, like I'd drink a whole bottle of Bacardi before a night out. And it would just be like,
trooper.
Yeah, yes. And I was so proud.
Yeah.
But
look at all you lightweights just drinking fucking alcohol pops.
yeah, right. I used to get off my fucking face.
Wow.
And it didn't feel good. It really didn't feel good. Just felt like utter shit.
Really?
You know? Yeah, because I'm trying to escape something, but obviously the thing with alcohol is that it would just make me think about it more. Like it would just bring everything to the surface, and I'd end up a mess, or I'd end up in some sort of terrible situation in a club where I'm just taking it out on somebody else.
Really?
Yeah, it was, and situations where I'd just black out.
Yeah.
And I've got no idea like what's going on, and putting myself in dangerous situations. And at the time it was really funny because it's like I'm telling myself some deep, complex story about why I need and want to drink alcohol, you know? So it was a really difficult thing to actually see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it became very damaging.
Yeah, it sounds it. And that's definitely, it's definitely been my experience that it can go that way. And I guess that leads to my first point, really, which is, so one step to taking back control is, for me, is asking the question, what do you get out of it?
Yeah.
You know, if when you think about alcohol, what do you get out of it? And well, for me, when I reflected on this, and when I do work with people now, I find that there's largely two reasons for why we might drink, or at least why we might drink, and it becoming something which might seem more in control of us than we're in control of it, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's either that it's something that gives us some sort of magical powers, like it's some like magic pill, as it were, or it's something that helps us numb or get away from something else. I think you talked to that, or at least you talked to the second one. I've had experience of both. Like when I was in my sort of mid-20s, I was drinking a lot and spending time with friends, and that was the thing that I did. For me, at that point, alcohol was synonymous with, well, that's what I do with my mates. Like that's how we connect.
Yeah.
We go out and drink to have a laugh.
Mm-hmm. What
I didn't realize at the time was that a lot of that was helping me with social anxiety. It was like when I drink, I don't worry so much about the shit in my head about what other people are thinking about me or whatever. But for quite a while, it was okay, because my experience had been, when I go out, we drink, we have a great laugh. I get to tell my friends how much I love them, and I come home and okay, I have a hangover, but I just build that into my weekend, and it's what we do the next weekend, right?
Yep.
But then the other side of it was, it really changed for me when I moved into a flat, and the relationship I was in was difficult, and I was very unhappy, and my mind was like, what do we normally do? Oh, we could have a drink. And it became a reason to kind of to escape things, to distract things. And I was just looking for that peace of mind, that quietness in the mind. But I realized it either never came or it was short-lived, because I would just end up sitting drinking on my own, you know, watching Netflix till 2 or 3 in the morning or something like that, and then wake up and feeling fucking hungover and shit.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in the cycle that a lot of people that I've spoken to can get into, where it's like, I feel so shit the next day, I try and get through that, and then I end up having a drink to feel better.
Yeah.
So I've experienced both sides of that kind of, oh, there's this alcohol that gives me the ability to socialize with my friends and just makes me a more fun person, a more open person, but also being this thing which helps me numb a situation that I don't know how to deal with.
Yes, that resonates. And that was where I went to with it, actually. Yeah, because for me, I'm going to go into my point.
Tell me, what's your point?
Feel the fucking feelings.
Feel the fucking feelings.
Feel the fucking feelings. Okay. Because what I realized is that it was all in the name of avoiding a feeling. So like it fell into categories for me. So I kind of thinking about, you know, at one point, drinking was about confidence. It was about being able to go out there and be anything but what I was, because I thought that wasn't good enough. And what I really realized when I reflected on it is what I wanted to be is the person that I am now.
Right.
And I just wasn't. And then it was an avoidance.
Yeah.
And it was numbing and it was suppressing. And in general, it was about coping. And it was about coping with feelings that I didn't want to feel. It was about trying to numb that out because it just felt too big of a thing for me to feel. And I think for me, the most extreme example of that is on a New Year's Eve. I can't remember which year it was, but on a New Year's Eve, essentially I was attacked by my partner to the point that he was like this close. I know you could see it and everybody else won't be able to
It's
kind
a very
of
small distance.
Yeah, to stamp in on my head.
Fuck.
Okay. And he dropped this massive jewelry box on my head. I had these massive lumps on my head and it was so traumatic.
Jeez.
How I coped with it afterwards, I went out on a night out and got really, really drunk.
Jeez.
Yeah. Because I couldn't deal with any of the feelings. I couldn't deal with all of that had happened. Literally went out in that state, drank to oblivion, and literally got up the next day and just got on with it.
Wow.
That was my process of dealing with it at the time. And it literally was in the name of avoiding a feeling. So I feel like it's really important to feel the feelings that we're trying to avoid, just so it's not an excuse. I think when alcohol becomes a way of avoiding feeling something, then it's going to become a continuous cycle, because that's what it did for me. It kept me in that loop of abuse because it made it okay. It made it bearable. Like I would just go out and be all out there, you know. That was my way of kind of getting it out of my system and thinking that somehow I dealt with it and I felt better. Where it just made it worse because then there was that guilt and the shame on top of it. So yeah, allow yourself to feel the feeling.
Yeah, and that kind of, I resonate with that. I agree with that. And I think, well, that it kind of leads on to my second point, really, which is, what would you happen if you stopped altogether? Or, you know, what would happen if you went without drinking, for example? And I, you know, when I was originally thinking about that, I was thinking of it in more on a long-term thing, but I think it applies on the micro level as well as the macro, kind of what you were talking to. Like when I think about when I was drinking, especially to avoid something, well, that's what it was about. Like, did I know consciously that's what it was about at the time? I don't think I did initially, because what it came out as was this urge of, oh, have a drink, or, oh, this would be a good idea. Like it felt like a very towards thing. I didn't see that as like an away from energy from something I was trying to avoid. Right. I initially took it as this, oh, let's have this because this seems like a good idea. This seems like maybe it's a treat or a way to relax or unwind or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a nice story with it. Well, even when it was like, yeah, actually there's all the excitement. Like I said, like, oh, I'm going to get to go have fun with my mates, so we're going to get drunk. Like the other side of it was, like I said, if I go out without it, then I'm going to be there in my head and with this social anxiety. And actually I don't know whether I fully recognized it. I don't know whether I fully appreciated the scale of it, if you like, but like I did try and quit a few times, and it became a bit of a joke at the pub where people would be like, oh, are you drinking at the moment? Or, yeah, when they used to say it was smoking as well. You drinking, you smoking at the moment. But I think what was happening was I would go out for a bit with the not drinking and try it. And then I'd be like, I don't know, I would somehow end up feeling more disconnected, or like something wasn't quite there, or that wasn't the same. And I think that was the start of seeing that fear, or seeing those things that I was actually trying to avoid, or that I hadn't been dealing with. And so my mind would just go, well, it'd come back with a story that, oh, well, you know, I can drink, or well, maybe or it'd be better if I did, or it'd come as a blowout as, oh, fuck it. Like I remember specifically that happening when there was a party or something, and I'd not been drinking for a while, and I'd gone to this house party and everyone there was getting on it, and I was saying I was going to be sober, and something in me just went, oh, fuck it. And on the surface it was like, oh, because everyone else is having fun and I'm not.
Yeah.
But I think underneath it was, oh, because I'm feeling disconnected from you, and I don't know how to connect with you guys without my magic potion.
Yeah.
as it were. So actually it was an away from, it was that I was going for the drink as a towards energy, but actually to get away from that feeling of disconnection and well, I guess loneliness, really.
Yeah.
Not part of it. Yeah, that's why I like that question. Like, what would happen if I stopped? What would happen if I didn't? What's the thing I'm kind of running from? Because that for me starts to point towards, well, is this really a choice, or is it a need in this context, at least?
Yes. That really does resonate, because I did definitely kind of look at the process of, well, I did get quite stuck in the process of need versus want.
Right, okay.
And when it dropped from want into need, and I was so clever at making up all these little stories to convince myself that I didn't need it. Of course I wanted it. Of course it's not numbing this stuff out. Of course I'm not avoiding stuff. Of course it's not terrible for me. Of course it's okay. So yeah, I think I think we can really kid ourselves. I know I'm very good at that. If I need to, I can weave these complex stories, about why it's not an issue. It's absolutely fine. I have complete control of all of that. But interestingly, my second point was very similar to yours, which was to experiment.
Right.
Because for me, that's one of the things with the need and the want. It's like, okay, so I'm saying that to myself. I don't need it. So what would happen if I just didn't have a drink today? Just today.
Just today.
Just today. And see what's going to happen. All right.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe in little steps make a massive difference. And I know that I'm a person that if I feel like something's just been taken away from me, and even if I do that to myself, I feel deprived. So I'm resisting that. I get stuck in that struggle then. So for me, that thing of small experiments of going, okay, so I'm just not going to drink today and see what happens, because how I feel and where I end up is information with regards to, is it a need or is it a want? Can I just go this 1 week and see how I feel? What's going on? And what's the trigger? Like, what's making me reach? So I guess it's really for me about experimenting and bringing awareness to the process and what's going on for you internally when you're in that space, and not giving yourself such a hard time, and not playing that trick. For me, sometimes it's such a mind trick. It's such a head fuck to just go, I'm just going to stop.
Yeah.
Because that puts me into a whole different process.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah. And it's quite a painful process, like deprivation. And then I beat myself up because it's like, I'm failing. So it's like, no, that's not the process. That's, that's only going to go the other way. And I'm going to go head for the bottle because I'm not good enough. So yeah, experiment, play around with it. Like, because I don't think there's a way out. Well, I know there wasn't for me until I faced the dragon. To face it, I needed to see it.
Yeah. And as you talk about that, like what I hear in that is that kind of ping pong in that, I just need to quit, or that's like stop altogether. I find that's often very reactionary.
Yeah.
And I think it's not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes, like, they say we need to hit rock bottom before it's like, oh fuck, the consciousness glasses are on now, or the rose tinted goggles are off, whichever way you want to look at it, and now I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
But what I found in my journey was that going, no, fuck it, I need to stop, and then just go hardline on it, because it was often coming from that, away from energy. It wasn't sustainable. Like, and I'd quickly run out of willpower. Like, it wasn't so much an experiment. It was I'm doing this and I have to do it. And I prided myself on that. Oh, yay, I can do this now. I'm going to be strong. But it was a tall order to fulfill and to continue on, to continue on with, because I hadn't looked at some of those things about, like, well, what am I getting out of this, and what is actually helping me avoid? I thought the alcohol was the only thing. I didn't see it as part of a bigger picture. So but initially it was like, oh, I could do this and this is fun, this is going to be exciting, and then that would wear off and it get difficult, and then my brain would just be looking for ways to kind of escape it, and to somehow push me back into getting my coping mechanism back.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because our brain like wants to take the easiest route in every single situation, right? It's like, so our brain is going to try and make us take the easiest route. So it's like, I guess the awareness of all of those things helps. It helps to kind of know this is how I work. And yeah, my brain's obviously, you know, it's so easy for me to collude with myself. I cannot tell you.
I'm great at convincing myself of stuff which helps me out in
absolutely.
in the thing I want to get, even if it's not good for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that takes a level of awareness and consciousness and decision and choice. So yeah,
and I suppose your third point kind of, it leads on to my third point.
My second point.
Or was that your second point? I'm leading this time. Can you tell maths was never my forte?
Love it.
Neither was short-term memory, or is. So my third step is prove to yourself you don't need it.
Yeah.
Prove it to yourself. Like, is it really a choice? Because I've definitely said this myself, and I hear it from people. Well, you know, I could stop whenever I want. Like, well, I just enjoy a drink, or I just enjoy this, or and it's like, and it's always the just minimizer that you're like, is it really just?
Yes.
Just really necessary? Like, what if we remove the just? But like, I totally get it, because I had those stories myself, and you know, in a way, me trying to stop cold turkey was a way to try and prove that, but obviously it kind of then it didn't work, and then I just in a way I just had a different story, because then it'd flip the other way. It was like, fuck it, well, that was bollocks, I am in control. But yeah, coming back, like proving to myself I don't need it. So where this really landed for me, well, this happened twice for me. When I think about it, there was two stages of this almost. The first one I ended up actually quitting really out of fear. And the second one was more of a kind of towards process. So the first one, I got myself into a difficult situation where I was in a difficult relationship, and the way I ended up dealing with that, I was feeling really disconnected. And, you know, I'm ashamed to say it really, but the way I ended up dealing with that was when I'd had a drink, I realized that kind of, I suppose the empathy centers were switched off a little bit, you know, the inhibitions were lower. So it started to make sense to me to go out and try and find someone else. And that's, like I said, at the time, that seemed to make sense. And I'd wake up feeling fucking horrible about it. And actually, most of the time it didn't work, because who wants to take home the extremely drunk guy, especially if you probably know him and probably know he's with somebody. And yeah, I'd feel awful in the mornings, but then not knowing how to deal with that situation properly, and then still being stuck in the hole of horrible feelings, eventually my brain would be like, well, let's have a drink. Let's go in. Yeah. And did I consciously at that time know that that's where that might lead? Well, no, because I was just looking for relief. But I suppose part of me must have known that that's where it was going to go. Well, long story short, that culminated in everything fucking blowing up and it being awful, really, to put it bluntly. And when I ended up quitting drinking, it was from a place of, I can't actually continue to drink. Like, it's like it became a non-option for me. But what that did mean is it made me prove to myself that I could go out and not drink, because I was forced to. Because every time I got to that point where in the past it'd be like, oh, this is difficult, this is uncomfortable. Like, I might have said before, I remember there was a point where I was in the pub and I almost had a panic attack, because I was like, I don't know how to talk to any of you people. I don't know who you are. Because I was sober. But in a way, I felt I was forced to deal with that, because I didn't have the option to go back to drinking, because I was like, I know where that can lead, and I can't deal with that. I can't trust myself to not go back to that place of being that person I don't want to be. Well, I learned some amazing lessons and life skills after that, because it was like, oh shit, I can learn to socialize. I can learn to do this and do that. And actually then, like, after that, what I ended up doing was I quit for a long time, but then I realized as I got more into, you know, therapy and personal development and becoming a therapist, I realized, oh, actually I quit out of fear. So I don't actually not drink out of choice. I'm not drinking out of fear. So I actually made the conscious decision to start drinking again, to see what that would be like.
Love it.
Well, to kind of, I wouldn't say test myself, but to kind of, like I said, because not doing things out of fear for me is not a great energy to come from. And a lot had changed because I had a much different relationship with alcohol at that point. I realized like I was a lot more respectful of it, and I was a lot more able to kind of pace myself, if you like. But then there would be points where I would again drink too much, and then I'd like maybe black out, or I would, that weekend would be a write-off. And I didn't end up in the space that I did previously. Like I recognized that, like I realized my mindset and who I was had obviously changed, because I no longer had that fear of being back there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a different experience, but still then I was still left with dealing with these fucking horrible hangovers I couldn't cope with. But then there came to a point, like me and my partner at the time, well, she wanted to quit drinking, and I decided, okay, I'll quit with you. But that was more towards action. That was like, well, I can drink, but this is I'm going to choose to do this.
Yeah.
And it was still a bit of a challenge, because it was a bit like, oh God, I haven't been out for a couple of years without drinking.
Mm-hmm.
It became the norm. But I remember very vividly, I went to a wedding party and I saw a bunch of people I hadn't seen for a long time. Yeah, and I remember thinking like, oh, this is going to be a new experience. This is normally the place that I'd go. But I remember having a great night. I spoke to people, I had some great conversations that I remembered. And the thing that really did it for me was I remember looking at the dance floor when it was empty, and I remember looking at it and thinking, oh, if I was drunk, I'd get on there. But then I left it for about half an hour, and then when I looked back, it was busier, and I went, I'm going to get on there. And I did. And I had a sober dance and had a great laugh with all my mates. And it was like, oh, time to leave for my train. I said goodbye to everyone, and I walked out. And it was walking home that it's the penny dropped, where I was like, oh, I don't need to drink for the reasons I used to drink.
Yeah.
And it was at that point where I said to myself, I'm gonna not drink to the end of the year and see what happens. And I forget when it was, probably March or something at that point, February, March, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was more of a towards energy. It was more of a commitment to, well, let's see what happens, and experiment, like you talked about. And then after I got to that, it was like, well, I can do this again now. This has become the norm. And so I've just I've kept it since then. That was a couple of years ago now. So yeah, coming back to my point, like proving to myself I didn't need it, but from the towards energy rather than the away. Because now I feel like I've got a lot more respect and understanding for alcohol, but I feel I've chosen to not drink from a place of this is better for me, rather than I'm fucking terrified of what it will do to me.
And that's such a big difference between those two states of being. Like, it's just a very, very different energy to be in those two different places. Because I feel like in those spaces, it's still, there's an aspect of like, I know me. And I know that this is a choice I'm making, rather than, because in that fear-based place, that in itself for me raises issues when I'm in that space. It's like, I have to not do things because I can't trust myself is essentially what I'm saying to myself. And that's not a good place to be, because then how can I trust myself in other situations if I can't trust myself in that one? So
100%. I didn't see that before. I really believe that it's all about that. It's that lack of understanding and trust, right? I don't trust that thing, but really I don't trust myself with that thing. So I have to avoid it. But then, for me, whenever we've got that kind of dynamic going on, it's like that thing has power over me.
Yes, it does.
I'm not actually the one in control. So
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I really like that. Well, my number 3, you already know.
I know. I have an idea. I have a suspicion.
Love yourself.
And
I always put it like that, but like it starts with a question for me, and it has done. It's like, if I'm truly honest with myself, if this was one of my kids, if this was somebody else that I loved, what would I be thinking, doing, feeling in this situation? And I know both with myself and lots of my clients, it's often easier in that space at the beginning of a journey to be able to go, okay, if this was somebody else that I loved, what would I be thinking about this situation and what's actually going on right now? because sometimes it's easier for people to see it that way.
Yeah.
And then you see the reality of it. But for me, again and again and again, when I have been essentially an asshole to myself, it kind of goes to that similar space of fear. And I'm shutting something down. And then I'm hating on it as well. And I'm hating on myself. Well, I have to not drink because obviously I can't be trusted with the drink. Something wrong with me. So really turning to that, into that space of love, and kind of go, what is it that I would say to somebody that I loved if they were in that space? There'd be a level of deep understanding as I get it. I understand the why. But also creating that space of allowing myself to reflect on it honestly, without the fear that I'm going to rip my own head off and it's just going to be ugly and horrible, but just providing that space with love. Like, look at it with love, shine the light of love on it. This is not about pointing the finger at yourself and being like, you're a terrible person, because those were the moments that would make me go ahead and go and get another drink.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. I have to drown this out. So, yeah. And also, when you are drinking, ask yourself the question, is this me loving myself? And answer the question before you have the drink.
Yeah, it reminds me. A very old friend of mine once said to me, you shouldn't drink to feel better, you should drink to feel even better.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I entirely agree with that, but what I like about the sentiment is it kind of points to what you're talking about, right? If I'm why am I drinking? Like, if I'm coming from a place of actually this genuinely might enhance things and I can have a couple of drinks and have a laugh, great. But if is it actually serving me? No pun intended.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Because those two experiences are very, very different. Those two experiences are very, very different. So, yeah. Look with the eyes of love.
Yeah. And the judgment piece you talked about, I think like when I had that really not very good relationship with alcohol, there was just so much self-judgment and a lack of understanding about me and about alcohol itself. Like, so it just like it had to be someone's fault, and I didn't treat myself well through it. And that's why I think causes the ping pong, like the ping ponging. So either I had to be the righteous person who was teetotal, or I had to be the terrible person who drinks and does bad things.
Yeah.
And through getting to where I got with it in my journey, where it was like having a better understanding of myself and alcohol and how the whole thing works, and then choosing to not do that because it would be better for me, but not coming from a place of fear means I don't have so much judgment for myself about it now. And I guess it must have helped me have less judgment on other people about the whole thing, because like I feel I see it in a different light.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So anything else coming up for you about alcohol, about steps or tips, tricks, taking back control, or things to consider when you think you might be drinking too much?
Yeah, I guess there's a point of, well, I think in lots of situations in my life, not just with drinking, I've had to get to the point where I stop bullshitting myself. Essentially, there's no other way for me to say it. Like, I can't dress it up in any other pretty way. But it really is. Like, I've had to see the truth of what is going on. And realize that I'm the only one that can change it. I'm the only one that's going to be able to see through the veil that I've kind of put there myself. And in those situations, I've had to be quite hardline on myself. And it's like, there isn't an excuse here. Like, this is not about excuses. This is about essentially saving myself. And I'm the only one that can truly do that. So, yeah, it's like, this is a time to own your shit and stop bullshitting yourself.
Said with love.
Absolutely. Lots and lots of love. Lots and lots of love.
Well, I suppose my closing thought is, if you're asking, am I drinking too much? You probably are. Or at least there's part of you that believes that. And, I'm not necessarily sure that's a true statement. And I don't mean that as a judgment. I mean, like, if there's a part that's concerned about it, what that suggests to me is there's likely a feeling of lack of control.
Yeah.
And often what's present there then for me is that sense of need and that kind of lack of understanding of how things work. It's that there's some sense of I need this thing because it either gives me something that I don't have or that I can't get without it, or it solves some problem for me, it numbs something for me.
Yeah.
And so for me, yeah, if you've got that question, it would be about exploring that and being like, well, and just exploring some of the points we talked about here, like what do you get out of it? What would happen if you didn't have it? And how do you prove to yourself you don't actually need it?
Yeah. Yeah. And is it the loving choice?
Yeah.
Is it the loving choice?
Yeah. Great question. There we go.
There we are. Yes.
18 episodes.
Yes.
Done and dusted.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Notcast podcast, Life, Love, Misery and Deep Shit, with your TheraCoach hosts,
David Bird
and Amy Dave.
David is a transformative coach and hypnotherapist who guides his clients on a journey of self-exploration and transformation to smash the shit out of their mental stumbling blocks and send their emotional baggage packing, helping them to get back in the driver's seat, create a more powerful, loving connection to life, and unleash onto the world their bright, shining light of authentic give-a-fuckness. You can connect with David at his website, dbch.co.uk. That's dbch.co.uk.
Amy is a transformative spiritual and self-love coach and therapist who takes people on a powerful journey towards self-love and personal transformation. She empowers her clients to discover the truth of who they really are, their true purpose, and the truest expression of themselves, whilst enabling them to navigate life and its challenges with ease, grace, and above all, love. Create relationships that rock their world and let go of the toxic shit that holds them back. You can connect with Amy on her Facebook at facebook.com/amy.dave11. That's ami.dave.11.